All right, then it says here the two Mishalim, Ilavolol and Eire Moir, Seichel and Midas and Eire Moir to explain Isabas Meshem Havaya. Each one has a chsaron. Then explained why the big Chiddush is Ilavolol, which is why it's brought first. Right? Everybody wants to venture to say what the chsaron is of each one. What's the chsaron of Ilavolol? As a marshal for Isabas directly from Shem Havaya. Pardon?
They're not in the same place. They are in the same place.
Seichel Midas in the same plane. It's better. The mile of it is it's Bekiruv. The problem is that Shem Havaya creates that which is Bein Aroich, Tzivav Nivro. That's the chsaron of Ilav Olam. The Be'erech. What's the chsaron of Eire Moir? The reason we bring there for the marshal of Eire Moir because that solves that problem. Because Eir is Bein Aroich. It's not a Metzias at all. What's the chsaron of Eire Moir? Yeah, that's not really what he brought out here. I mean, again, Seichel Midas also, Seichel also has to produce Midas. Both have that chsaron.
The inevitability.
No, both are inevitable.
True.
Seichel produce Midas, Moir produce Eir.
The Shem Havaya shows that close to X. So yes, there's some type of wolfram that it has to produce, but
not this, not this. The chsaron of, you're right. The chsaron of Eire Moir is that Eir is not a Metzias. We want to bring out a marshal of the creation. It's pashtus. So there's an element of hechler. There is not this, but this element of his pashtus is behechler. Manifestation of a luminary is inevitable, but what it should create, you're not. So, but the problem here is these pashtus. So again, it's a zero in on the chsaron of Ilav Olol is it's be'erech. The world of Seichel is be'erech. The world of Midas, and the world of Midas is be'erech. The world of Seichel. Again, you can even see the Midas in the Seichel, as we explained at length in the previous Maamar. And that's a chsaron, because Shem Havaya creates that which is mufla. It's mufla from Yisab. It's totally beyond. Shem Havaya itself is not revealed in creation. Look into the middle, you can see what the Seichel that gave birth to it. The bittul that Shem Havaya pearls is not that Shem Havaya is this Godol there, but that the creation acknowledges that it's Ein ve'efes. Atzilus is not Ein Sof, but Atzilus screams Ein Sof. It's not Ein Sof. You don't see Ein Sof in Atzilus. So that's the chsaron of Atzilus, of the marshal of Atzilus, as it were, and the chsaron of Seichel and Midas. That chsaron is met and answered by Moir and Eir. Because the Eir is not a Metzias. The problem is, it's not a Nivra, just pashtus. Therefore, you have to bring both. Why does he bring Ilav Olol first? That was the last thing we learned. Why does he bring Ilav Olol as the first marshal and not Eir and Moir? Because of the Iker Chiddush. And what's the Iker Chiddush? There's a Nivra. And the Nivroim are bottled to the first. It's a Nivra and totally bottled. If Shem Havaya would create unscreened, unfiltered by Shem Havaya. That's explained by Ilav Olol, because Midas is a Nivra. for this pashtus. It's produced. It's a creation, relatively speaking. Creation of the seichel. That's the big chiddush. Okay, so that's what we're up to. And now we're up to Ois Vav. Yeah, we're clear. When we finish Ois Vav, truth is, it's another kashan, another teretz. I'll finish. So at the end, we'll make the chart. Maybe we'll make 2 charts. Okay. So question coming up now is Vav. In the Yadua.
Rabbi, start to explain, try to understand how there was a Gilui Nirgash, Shem Havaya, and Macham-Mikdash.
It's all to answer why it's the Macham-Mikdash as opposed to the Beis HaMikdash. Notwithstanding that the Macham-Mikdash is part of the rest of creation. That's all to explain that, yeah. He answered, he just said a statement. The Macham-Mikdash Shem Elokim is not master. What does that mean? That's all to explain. The end, what that means. That the Macham-Mikdash Shem Elokim is present, but does not pose a concealment. Notwithstanding its active role. Till now we're separating Hisavos, Shem Havaya and Shem Elokim. So not to understand the end goal. What does it mean that in Macham-Mikdash it was both talking, like everything else, from Asarim and Modas. But there the Chiddush is Shem Elokim was not Ma'il or Master. That's the end goal. But to understand that, first addressing Havaya and Elokim independently, understanding the different kinds of creation it produces with the Mesholim and their flaws and therefore too, and trying to get there for a grasp. Then speak about the infusion and 2 kinds of fusion. One where the Kim is master everywhere else. Macham-Mikdash Shem Elokim does not consider. So that's where he's going with this. So Yisvav now starts to talk about their fusion, what produces limitations of time and space, and so on. Gvul. So in the Yadua from Shara Yichud, although there's a ha'arim shnatzan gear, but we'll do it later. Sha'ila mugder begeder u'mokem uzman. The fact that the world is bound by the boundaries of time, of space and time. What produces that limitation is Shem Elokim. He says in Shara Yichud, there is a Shem Adma. He was saying Shem Elokim. He answers that the Shoydish of Zman and Malkim is Shem Adma. It manifests it through Shem Elokim. That's the technical answer to that question. Let's go back to the opinion. Meaning, continuing. Like he says in Shara Yichud, if they wish to create only Mishem Havaya, not Mishem Elokim. What's Shem Havaya? It's a fusion of past, present, future, all as one, meaning beyond time. Then a statement. And the statement is, the conclusion is, the world wouldn't be limited with the Gdorim of space and time. Now, what does that mean? On the surface, it sounds like there would not be space and time. And that's the hanocha that we have now, kind of. So let's go further. So Yaakov said that this place, Havaya is in this place, meaning, the place of the base of Mikdash was beyond the limitations of space. As we all know, the Mokim Oren ain't in Amida. That the Oren didn't take up any space. The room, the Kegdol. was 20 amas wide, and the Aron took up 2.5 amas. And if you measured from one side of the Aron to the other, each side would be 10. And then you measure from wall to wall, it's all wide angles, will be 20. And if you measure simultaneously the Aron, it's 2.5. The mind can't even wrap itself around it. You can't imagine, because it's not imaginable. It's not imaginable to have space and not space at the same time. And that's why, because there's Gilui Shem Havai. Elo Shagilui Shem Beis HaMikdash. The Chiddush is not Shem Havai directly, no Shem Elikim. But the Gilui of the Shem Havai in the Beis HaMikdash, Hoya Gilui the Shem Havai, K'may Shem Meir B'Shem Elikim. Now we're talking the fusion. The Shem Havai is revealed in Shem Elikim. We must say so, because the Shem Havai, there is no space, period. That's the hanacha right now. That there is no space at all mitzvah Shem Havai. It's blik vul. And we'll produce that which is blik vul. Yeah, we get the measurements. And that the Kodesh HaKadoshim was a limited space. 20 by 20. The Aron also had its specific measurement. 2.5 in its breadth. Its length. And 2.5, length means the way it's across the width of the room. That's called Aron. The depth was wide, deep, was 1.5. This way, 2.5, 1.5 that way. So in other words, so there is hardcore time and space here. And also in the Kutasichas, he says, it's not only there is also, it was bedafke. It didn't happen if these measurements were not respected. The Aron had to be mamish 2.5 b'diyuk, and the room had to be b'diyuk 20 amas high. And why? And only then was Ein Min Amida. That's when it happened. He didn't respect the commandment to make it specifically by these measurements, then it would take up space like everything else. That's the Pelish of Godol has a dafke mitzad there. It's specific measurements. Yafal Pekin, nonetheless, Mokem Aron Ein Min Amida, because why is that? We're in Yichud V'Vayim. Now comes the question. That's clear. Yeah. As clear as it can be. You have to understand the Kivin Shagam B'Savashishim. We just said before that the chsoron of the moshel of Oyer and Moyer is that it's not a nivra, it's a spashtus. And Shem Havai creates it. So we have to understand the Kivin Shagam B'Savashishim Shem Havai Misav Davar Chodosh. Shem Havai would create something, it's mufla, create something novel, which is completely incomparable. That's the point that we said. And we said in the brackets, he's repeating the bracket that we said earlier. What is the pshat that we say that Shem Havai will be revealed in the world that it created? Not that it's revealed in the niv. The niv is a gvul. But it's created it's revealed in the bittul like Atzilus. Atzilus is gvul, but Atzilus is bittul b'metzias to Havaya, to Alikus, to the Eibishter. Shenirgish b'metziusa. What kind of creation does Havaya produce? It's all metzias. Complete bittul and feels this total absolute dependence on the Shem, on Havaya that's creating every moment. Never feels that truth. It has no intrinsic reality. Its reality is the kerch that creates it, and therefore it's a bottle of mitzias. But there is a mitzias. It could create. So the question now, therefore, is create what a nivra. What did Hashem give? Why are we saying that in it's a migdash mokim bottom ein min amidas, because what gives the time and space is Hashem Havai also can create time and space, but a bottle time and space, which is exactly what the base of migdash is. So why do we insist that in Kiddush HaKadoshim is Havaya and Elikim and not pure Havaya? that creates as a man and mock in battle. Including the question in the text. It would appear, based on everything we said till now, that Shem Havaya creates, and that was the chsar of the marshal of Eid and Moed, and that's the mile of the marshal of Seichel Midas of Ilav, that is a Metzius. Shem Havaya creates the Metzius. Then the Metzius feels utterly bottled, like Atzilus. Hard to speak up. Which is means? This is the very next paragraph. It's going to start. And that's going to be a kasha. So, all right, but the question is clear. Okay, but the question is asking now is, why would it not be that what's unique to the Beis Hamikdash, the complete bittul, is because Shem Havaya is revealed there, and without Shem Alikim, pure Shem Havaya. And Shem Havaya, as we explained earlier, creates with Tziva v'Nivro. That's the question. So the explanation, if was prefacing, means beyond time. But he didn't Shem Havaya, even he said it would be beyond time, mind you. Same thing, it's a relationship to time, but it's beyond time. But moreover, there is time here. It's past, present, and future all at once. And that's time. And the fact that that's what Shem Havaya is, that's time, move on. So taka true, Shagam Oilam Commission Misab Mishem Havayesh Binyan Azman. He's not answering our question yet. On the contrary, oh, good. So it creates time and space. Shem Alikim. So let's see. So there would be a world that's bound by the limitations of time. Ella Shazman Shabelam Zeh Ba'ofen. But what kind of time would it be? Not the time as we have it, but a time where it's all at once. Past, present, and future is all at once. Likewise, space. Yeah, that is the way he's explaining it now. At this point, the halacha is, as we just said, there's time, but not as we would know time. But conceptually, it's like stepping back and seeing it all played out at once. At once. It's one of the answers to which Chassidus rejects ultimately is the ultimate answer, but it is often to explain Bechira. God knows my choice, and what choice do I have? So one of the classic answers, it's no future, knows your future, it's all now. So he's seeing your future choice for God, it's in the present. Okay, we're not going to that whole subject, but that's one of the terutzim. Now that's time. So what is he saying? That if Havaya would create, so he said, yes, there would be a nivra, but the problem, it is trying to answer the question. They would create time, but the problem is not time as we know. Time where it's past, present, and future is all as one. And likewise space. And therefore we need Shem Alikim. Because time and space in Kodesh HaKadoshim is as we know it, and yes, and yet it doesn't have that ball. He's beginning the answer. But it's going to be a kasha. But let's go talk about space. So true, also space. If Havaya would create, so we said before, Havaya creates a nivra. So yesh ba'inyan amokim, there be space. Elo, shashishak tzov is the mokim ke'echad, the sixth direction of space will not be off in different directions, but all at once. So we answered our question. We might want to suggest. So therefore, the reason why space and time created by Shem Havaya Eino Ba'Kabbalah B'Schalkos, so it's not this. It doesn't have the limitations and not divided. Even though Shagam Mo'ed Commission Misav Shem Havaya Bein Arich Lamokim Havoisai, even though it's Bein Arich, but at the same time, it's not going to have the problem. It's not going to have the chesed which we want of Akbala Nischalkos because it's a tremendous bittul that would be engendered if Shem Havaya would create itself. Since past, present, and future. In the 6 directions of space. So time and space would feel that they are not realities unto themselves. That Havaya creates them. Therefore, they're not in contradiction with each other. In Kechon, they are one. And the thing is, then Beis Hamikdash is Beis Chalkos, including the answer. If we have to say. So Shem Havaya itself cannot produce what is desired, a place of Ischalkos, because it creates takas, man, and mokim, but there's no Ischalkos, because of their complete bittul to the source, that they feel that they have no time and space, there's no reality other than the will of the Eibishter that it be, and therefore they're not in contradiction, and they are one. And that's not what we want. That's not the Mokim-Mikdash, including the point. And therefore, the insistence why the Mokim of the Kodesh Kadoshim cannot be directly from Shem Havaya, even though there is Zman and Mokim there, but it has to be from Shem Elikim. Even though the whole point is we were looking for hide the limits of time and space. That's beautiful. That's what Shem Havaya would produce. As man and Mokim, that's hide in Zman and Mokim. No, you need Shem Elikim. Who? Because the place there, Esrim Amal, there was division. In other words, Shem Havaya would create a time and space that we would not recognize. Huh?
Every Amma is independent. They're not overlapped.
Yeah. Another place. Right. But Yishchalk is the Mokim, when Shem Elikim, what divides one space from another, the Shem Elikim. Therefore, you need to have Shem Elikim. But then somehow it's there, but not mastered. What does that mean? What does it mean that Shem Elikim is there and doesn't conceal? How's that different than Shem Havaya creating itself, which does produce time and space? Already we're seeing the difference at this point that Shem Havaya creates. It's an altered time and space as we know it would exist, but completely harmonious because of its absolute bittul. And what we want is that the kush should be revealed in a place of Ischalkos. Without Shem Elikim, you don't have Ischalkos. It concludes his point. But then it'll be a very Givaldi Kasha. Let's conclude the point. And Mokim Morin, as we know Mokim, that's the Dirib Tachtoinim, space, you measure. You go in there with the tape measure and you measure. And there's, each Amma has its own place. They're not fused Ammas there, but all one. The fact that they could be there and still not min amida, that's because it's yichud havaya ve'elikim. The elikim produces ischalkos. As he goes into say, shakbol of ischalkos, the mokim ma'adam mitzad elikim. What creates that division, that hardcore division, shem elikim? Zeh shahoya eina min amida And so why was it that in Zman itself, it's not Min Amida? It's Kagidol Shem Havaya. Shem Havaya is revealed there. Havaya is revealed where in Shem Elikim, Yichad Havaya Elikim. So the answer so far is that if it would be the Isabas of Shem Havaya, you wouldn't have the division, the separation. You have Zman HaMokim. It's Zman HaMokim in a rarefied, unified way. Completely bottled. That's not what was in the Kodesh HaKadosh. The Kodesh HaKadosh was time and space as we know. And yet, time and space as we know it, the bigger space, it was L'mayla Min HaMokim. That's because in Elikim is revealed Shem Havaya. But the story is not over, and we continue B'ezras Hashem on Monday. It's a very fundamental mindset that really explains what does tzimtzum mean. What is the tzimtzum? That's what causes the whole bolus. It's Zman HaMokim. This has to go down as one of the foundational memorim too that you have to learn. Okay. So today's story.